As we're heading into a recession with the economy, let's talk about what we as bloggers should do differently and how this might affect our blogs and our industry here as a whole. So first we can look at what happened with blogging during the last recession. So in 2008, 9, 10, we didn't really have many of the bigger blogging technologies available that we use to monetize our blogs today. So if you look at the Stoic, for example, their ad revenue index doesn't go further back than 2016. And the two other bigger players, AdFry and Mediavine, I believe AdFry was founded in 2013 and Mediavine was founded actually in 2004. But for the first many years, they were just a very small company doing nothing like what they are doing today with us bloggers. So we don't have a lot of data. Of course, we could look at Google AdSense, but the technology is just so different today. What AdFry, Mediavine, and Stoic are doing using this bidding technology that didn't really exist back then, I believe. So first I want to say a recession is not really a threat to blogging. So of course we're seeing a little less revenue from the advertisers because there's just less money in advertising during a recession. So personally across my sites, when I compare last month to the same month last year, I'm seeing 22% less revenue for the same traffic. You can say the RPM dropped like 22%. On top of that, since I'm outside the US, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I do take home 18% more, regardless of whether you're using euro or whatnot. Then you will take home more money because the dollar is always super strong in a recession because everybody's rushing to the dollar because they don't know what to invest in. The housing market is not the best place to put your money right now. Stocks are probably going down for a long time. So people invest their fundings into the dollar, which makes it super strong. And that's a great thing for us outside the US. That sort of counterbalances the thing that we earn less from ads, but then we get more on every dollar. But of course, this is only interesting if you're outside the States. So this recession and this time is a little different from what we've seen in the world history before because we have a problem with the supply chains. That means that a lot of products are not getting shipped. Some are not even leaving China and they're not getting to the harbors and out to the stores. So you gotta check that your affiliate revenue is still there if you rely on affiliate offers, which I do to some extent. So you wanna make sure that the stores you work with, they actually have some product to ship because otherwise you need to redirect those links or point that to other products or other stores. We just have a big shortage on stuff. There's just a lot of stuff you can't really get access to right now. And then of course there are some niches that thrive and some that struggle during a recession whenever people hold back their money and things get a little tight. They're just stuff that you don't do. So of course, when you're talking about niches that lose, that will be travel. So, oh boy, if you're in travel, I feel sorry for you because you just had COVID to deal with where people could not travel and now they probably don't have the money or don't want to prioritize it. But also various luxury products. Could be everything from golf to beauty. If you're in those verticals or in those niches, you should expect a more steep slowdown. And maybe it's time to focus on the second side because nobody knows how long this recession will be. People are talking about the 70s coming back or whatnot. So it might be a good time to start a new second site. If you haven't done so already, if your main site is about something that's very luxury or golf, for example. But then there are also niches that will thrive and do better in a time like this. So that could, for example, be a site about frugal living, or it could be a site about gardening or what to do with your kids. Because if you're laid off, if you have more time and you're not going to work for a while, then obviously you'll have more time with your kids. So anything around also maybe homeschooling, I think those niches will probably go up. But not until we will see the unemployment rate start to rise. So as long as people have work and they have jobs, which is the case right now, it's probably not going to change a whole lot. So what we learned from the coronavirus as far as bloggers was that a lot of people were staying at home. So we just saw way more traffic, like in general, like the internet just boomed. And I'm pretty sure this is also one of the things that caused Google to have problems because of course, all the server capacities, crawlers and all that is balanced to some point so they don't have a huge excess of computing power. And all of a sudden that went up and then they had AI and more articles to deal with after that also. But Google aside, we have a lot of niches that will thrive. Could also be personal finance and basically anything that you'll do in the home and do at home. But again, that is if people get laid off, and we haven't seen that really yet. People still have jobs. They're back after COVID. So one other thing that I want to point out, some bloggers and some courses and some folks here on YouTube are telling you to tailor your content toward the recession and start writing about that, or how and help people to get out of it or whatnot, help them to find solutions. And to some extent I agree, but I tell my writers not to use the word recession and slowdown and the current economy. I don't want them to create intros in our articles like that, or have long paragraphs about how the specific recession does this and that. Actually, I tell my writers not to mention the recession because I want these articles to live for a long time without me having to go back and update them once the recession is over. So remember, a recession is temporary. Even though this might be longer, it might be tougher, it's still just a couple of years, right? So we don't want to go back and have to edit and update, because what happens if people go to an article in 3-4 years from now and they read about the recession and such, they'll just see that this was a super old article and they're just fed up with that. They just can't have more about the recession in a couple of years. So you'll have to go back and remove that, and I don't want to do that. But that said, Ricky had a pretty good point, Ricky from Income School, that you could write about topics that you can say are more relevant during a recession. So it could be like how to stay in your camper or alternative housing options and such things. And I think that's a pretty good idea. But personally, I wouldn't mention the recession. I would just write about these type of topics. I think that's a good idea because some gets more search volume. It just makes sense that people will talk more and think more about how to get more on the dollar and how to save money, how to heat your house in other ways. And that could always be relevant. But just don't tailor it 100% to the recession. So I also want to share some of the things that I do right now, and some of those have to do with the recession. So first of all, in good times when it's not a recession, I'm always sprinting. We're constantly growing and moving faster. But in times like this, I'm also trying to look back a little bit and see how could we get more with what we have, because I might not want to spend a whole lot more money on content for the next couple of years. Who knows? I do have some money to invest, and there's literally nowhere else to put that money. Like we talked about, the stock market, the housing market, anywhere else is just crap right now. So the best place to put your money is definitely in your blog. But if you don't have that money, and if you have less money to invest into your blog, I think you should spend some good time trying to optimize what you're doing, because that's something that we often neglect. And many times we don't really go back and check the top posts and see if we can get more out of them. So what I want to do is to go into my top 10 posts across all sites, make sure that I space out the content to allow for more ads, and also to make sure that it's just good content still, and make sure that the intros are straight to the point and all that. And then I also think it's a good time to do some experimenting. So I'm trying now to write some shorter articles to see if they will rank just as well with all the recent Google updates and the helpful content update, Google talking about cutting down on fluff and getting more straight to the point. So that's something that I'm testing out, and I'm not building new sites right now. I don't want to do that in a season like this. If our sites are gonna take a hit and if they're gonna earn less money, I don't want to plant new seeds right now, because obviously they will take a long time to make money. I want to make sure that we get the most money out of the sites that we have, and I want to optimize things during these times. And it might also be that we're looking into a few years now where you have to work harder for the same amount of money. That's probably what's gonna happen for most of us. So we just gotta keep at it, because remember, recessions are temporary. And once it's over, if you have a bigger site that's making the same amount of money that you're making now because it grew like 25%, but then you also lost some of the ad revenue. If you have a bigger site with more traffic, once those RPMs come back, you will have a super good party time. You'll just see your earnings go through the roof at that point. Let me know in the comments what you're doing right now, and if you think there's some aspects that I missed here, if you think there's something else going on in the blogging industry when a recession hits, because none of us really know what's going on, because we didn't have the sites that we have today back in 2008 when the last recession hit. So it's going to be interesting, and I wish you all the best. See you guys.